Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live videocast where we talk with people from all walks of the publishing industry. I'm Christie Stratos, the author of the historical suspense series, the Dark Victoriana Collection, which currently has 2 novels and 2 short stories in it. And my awesome co-host, Richard H. Stevens, writes epic fantasy, and his series include Soulforge Universe, Soulforge Saga, and more. Lurking for Legends is a live interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to chime in with us for us in this case, or comment on what you hear and share your experiences and ideas. So today we have another special episode. Last week we had a special episode, and this week we have a different kind of special episode where Richard and I are going to do a Q&A. So anyone who has a question for us, just pop it right down there in the chat, and we will show your question and we will answer it as best we can. So you can write, you can ask writing questions, you can ask publishing questions, cover stuff, share your own experiences, because a lot of you are already published authors and very experienced, and share your expertise with us. And we will also, show that on the screen. So that is what we are doing tonight. And I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say to us. It should be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I've been looking forward to this too, because I am by no means an expert in any field whatsoever. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, and I think as an independent author, wearing all these different hats, you kind of fumble your way through, and you're successful in certain things, and you're not successful in other things, and you don't know why. When you see, I'll see that Christie Stratos is doing this very well, and it's not working for me, and I don't know why it's working for her and not me, and I think those are the toughest parts of being an independent author. So, and I hope that our viewers chime in with their expertise on what they know, because I'll never know it all. I'll never know even half it. I want to learn from them as well. So I think together we can teach each other just to be a little bit better as we go forward as independent authors, for sure.
Definitely. Don't be shy. Pop your questions right down there in the chat. I remember, since you're mentioning when you first became an author, I remember when I was first trying to do the publication process for Anatomy of a Darkened Heart, and I wanted to do everything myself except the cover, because obviously, that's a bit iffy, and you want a professional on that. But I remember I had a full-time job. It was really more than a full-time job. It was like 24/7 type of stuff, and I was trying to figure out formatting. Oh my God, the headache. And everywhere I looked was different ways to do it in Word, and nothing was quite up to date. Like everything was, oh my God, it was such a pain. And it took me a while to format the first time. And then I really got the hang of it. Much easier now. But oh boy, was that tough. I remember just staying up till all hours.
So what did you do to make it easier for you then? I know what I did, but what did you do that made the actual formatting process easier?
Well, at that time, I was watching all these YouTube videos and like looking at different websites, and I was finding that almost everything was outdated in one way or another. And I didn't know why. It just probably changed, frequently. Not really sure what the deal was there. But I kind of gathered everything together that I had learned, and it ended up working out. The first time was way harder because I don't typically in my works use chapters. So everything was referring to like chapters and how to separate things by chapters. So, I did it the first time. I really stumbled my way along. It was a mess. If you are out there stumbling your way along, don't worry. Once you get to that point of figuring it out, write it down. That was the biggest mistake I made, was not writing enough down. And then the next time it was a little bit more difficult. But I used Scrivener, and Scrivener 2 made it very, very easy to export as an ebook. Scrivener 3 does not make it easy. The compile feature is
interesting.
Much, much harder for ebook, but I have an easy time with it now. So in Word, it's so much simpler than everything I had read then. And I think Amazon has updated its processes a little bit. So just a little.
So Nita's joining us tonight, and she's asking, what is the part of formatting you still annoys you? So even though that you're becoming more, maybe not an expert, but you're becoming more comfortable with formatting, I don't think we'll ever be an expert. That you pay people big bucks to actually be an expert at formatting, but you're comfortable enough that you can upload your own books. But what's the one part of formatting that still annoys you to this day?
Anita's good at formatting too. Her books look so good. For me, it's those those mini issues that when everything looks fine in Word, and I've got like the paragraphing thing on, or whatever that is called, and I upload it to Kindle, and then I do the preview, and something is on, like, has like a double indent or some kind of weird thing, like an extra space, and when I go back to the document, I can't find anything wrong with it, so that is the part that is the most frustrating, and I don't know if like people that you hire don't really have that problem. So I always have to go back and like strip the formatting out of that area and then like redo whatever I'm doing from scratch. That part is the most annoying thing to me. I absolutely hate it. So, and Smashwords is very annoying. I've taken to just uploading what I did for Amazon and letting it tell me what I did wrong and then just fixing it because it's too much work otherwise. It's like an 81-page manuscript novel on how to do it, that Smashwords gives out, and nobody's reading that. So, and some of its information is actually wrong. So what about for you, Richard?
Formatting, I find I do everything in Word. I'm too lazy to learn Scrivener or Vellum, or not Vellum. Sorry, Scrivener or is it
Isn't
Vellum?
it? I think
It
it
is
might.
Vellum. I'm getting mixed up with Vella and Vellum because
Yeah.
No, I'm too lazy to do that. I do very well with Word, and I always tell authors who haven't actually published a book yet, I said, look after the formatting, or you're gonna have to pay someone to do it. And probably the first thing you should do, if you're in Word anyway, is to decide what size book you want. So if you want a 4x6 mass market, do you want 8.5 by whatever? Do you want 6x9? Decide on your book size. Set your page, your Microsoft Word page up to that size right out the hop before you even write your first word. Set your margins. Now everything's done. And then write. And if you print it off on your printer, if you want to read it to edit, it's going to come out a lot smaller. But that's fine. Your formatting is all done. I've found in my first 2 releases that when I went to upload it into Amazon took it, but it was all over the map after that point. My table of contents were just totally out of whack because my page sizes were different and my margins were off. So, then you have to go back into your manuscript and start resizing everything at that point. And if you resize your page after the fact, everything is just goes screwy. So I found the biggest tip I would give is to set your page up before you even write your first word. And then, that part is done. If you want to use fancy indents and stuff like that, well, that's a little bit different. But YouTube is your friend. I don't know how many times I've learned how to use section breaks, how to change the headers and stuff like that. The only thing I can't figure out yet is how to put my name on one side and my book title on the other. And I know you can do it in Scrivener and these other things. I haven't figured out in Word yet, but at the end of the day, I also tell writers or wannabe authors that as long as the story is good, the reader won't care what's on the top. You want to be as professional as you can as an independent, so it looks and compares to a professionally bound book. But at the end of the day, it's the story that matters the most. So I see we got a lot of questions.
Good point.
So I'll stop here.
Yeah, I just want to throw in that's such a good point about the margins, because I've definitely made that mistake in the past, and it's much easier to start, as you said, with the margins already set. And Amazon has resources for that too. I think I believe I use their resource for that so that I don't have to do it from scratch. But that is a really important one for sure.
And I don't offset my margins. I know you can, but I don't. And I think it's because if you get the mass market paperbacks, I hate trying to bend that spine, especially when you're reading a fantasy where the pages are, the book's so thick. You pretty well got to break the spine in half so you can read the inside word or the outside word of the line. Because you jam them in the margin. My margins are 1 inch all the way around. And maybe I'm losing a word on every line. I don't care. I think it looks fine, and you can read it quite nicely. So it's all your preference. If you want to be totally professional, you're going to have your inside of where the spine crease is. Your pages are in a bit more, but I don't worry about stuff like that.
Yeah, and there are resources for that too. Like there is a lot more on Amazon. I mean, I don't like everything they do, but they do have some good, helpful stuff about how to figure that stuff out and the spine size and all that. So definitely use the, do the search through their resources. They have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's certainly there. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the comments here just so we don't get too far behind on them. CJ saying, we were so fortunate. CJ is my wife, if anyone doesn't know that. She says, we were so fortunate to meet author David Kelly, who selflessly walked us through the world of Amazon. And since then, we've had a great friendship. So that's the awesome thing about the author community is helping each other. I don't know how many times I've asked for help, and so many people jump in. And sometimes it's a little overwhelming because everyone has a different way of doing things. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But keeping on with CJ here, she goes, to stay with KU or go wide? That is the question, and it certainly is the $1 million question. So if anyone has opinions on that, please chime in on what your successes are and what's your why you've opted to leave one or the other, as we've done. We've just decided to get out of KU now, and we're going wide, and we're trying to experience that market. And it's a big learning curve. And if it wasn't for Caroline, we'd be going nowhere right now. So she's been very instrumental in that. What about yourself with respect to KU or going wide?
I almost always go wide. I never did the KU thing because I know it definitely works especially well for certain genres and certain types of strategies, but I didn't have that kind of strategy. So most of the time, I have always gone wide, except on one book, which was The Wrong House. And that's a short story. And it was kind of my experiment. And it was fine for like when it released. And then past that point, I missed the date to remove it, but it's just not doing anything. Right. So I definitely want to put it wide because.
Now, you advertising in Kindle KU?
No. I just I had put it there just kind of experiment to see what would happen, and to see if my genre with the way that I'm laying out my collection would work without spending money on it, just to see what would happen. And it was, like I said, it was okay for like release month, and that was really it. My other short story that I released and didn't put in KU actually did better wide, so I think I'm gonna stick with wide. Now I have two to compare, and the one that did worse with KU came out at Christmas, so it should have done better if it was going to. So I figure I'm gonna stick wide. You can always experiment like that. It can't hurt.
Yeah, I find there's so many different ways with KU. So many things pertain to KU. So if you've got one book in Kindle Unlimited, these Kindle Unlimited readers, like, they have a subscription, and they're looking for, and a lot of them are what you call whales, and they can read a book in a day. Like, I'm lucky to read a book in a month. And so they're looking for new authors that have lots of stuff out there. So if you've just got one book out there, they're probably not going to invest any time in you because they know you've got nothing else. So they'll just move on. So I think that's one of the reasons that the KU page reads might be down for having just a single release.
In KU, that's right. Yeah, it very well could be.
Yeah, and you were saying that when you first released it, that you had some page reads, and you'd went on a release date up. I don't know what the magic number is. I probably changed it with genre, but you have a algorithm. Your algorithms are higher in Amazon. You're seeing a little bit better when you first release, and then you start dropping down. So that's the whole idea behind the rapid release, where your second book will inflate the first book again and bring you back in the Amazon algorithms without having to advertise. But at the end of the day, if you're not advertising, you're on a massive ocean of all these fish, and it's very rare that you're going to be the one that gets caught, because there's just so many out there unless you advertise and show them that,
Are you advertising?
We were advertising. When I was in KU, I was advertising quite a bit. And some months I would spend, 2/3 of what I made. And if I was making $100,000 and I spent $66,000 and still netted $33,000, I'd probably be okay with that. But, I wasn't spending great sums like that. And so my return wasn't that great. And so I've had varying successes on it, and we're still trying. And now Caroline's starting to dip her feet into the market. So hopefully she can understand it a bit better than me. So, but advertise, if you don't advertise, you're not going to get seen. And that's a simple fact, unfortunately. Yeah. So as you can jump into Anita here, it's a table of contents for me. We're going to go back to formatting here, that at least the print, never get that right the first time. My experience, if I can, Christie, before you, is one of the things I learned was that first couple of books I put in, I uploaded Word directly into KDP, and it just totally screwed up. Even with it formatting properly, it still screwed up my paragraph numbers in print. After about third or fourth chapter, all of a sudden the page numbers were wrong. So I had to physically go through each book and see where they are on the viewer for Amazon. And then I realized, I don't know why, but it took me that long. But after a couple books, I realized that if I actually convert it into a PDF, then put it into KDP, the page numbers will stay the same. I don't know why the difference, but I know they can't change the PDF. So I'm not sure where the thing is. But so my advice would be to make sure that it's in PDF before you actually upload it into Amazon, and that should resolve that problem.
Same here. I stopped doing table of contents with my second book because I was like, this isn't worth the time that I'm spending because I don't have chapters, like I said, so it doesn't make as much of a difference. But I shied away.
Yeah. Joe Compton series says, let me just pull it up. I find marketing a daunting process. How much of a social media platform should you? Oh, sorry, that's not Joe. Sorry, sorry, it's Jackie. How much of a social media platform should you have before you publish? I often feel overwhelmed with managing multiple platforms and find it time consuming. So how do you find balance between marketing and actual time spent writing, editing, etc.? I'll let you start with that.
I saw that coming. I knew you were going to say that. First of all, CJ is here, and CJ does some of Richard's marketing. So chime in down below, CJ, if you have any advice for Jackie. For me, like I do totally understand what you're saying, Jackie. It is difficult to balance that time. Really, I mean, if you can build a social media platform, get it going well before your release, that's really for the best, just because you don't really want to have a release and like be posting about that release to nobody. You know what I mean? So like it's ideal if you can start posting well in advance, and you can talk about anything. I mean, you can talk about how you're editing a chapter, how you're, writing the most difficult chapter you've ever written, how hard self-editing is for you. Like you can talk about anything. You can post any kind of visual to go with it that will suit like, especially your genre. And so, as long as people look at your account and know, like they can tell that you're a writer right off the bat, that's one of the pieces of advice I would give. But I would say if you can start it in advance, I would do it. And then in terms of like, managing multiple platforms, that is tough. I mean, I have, let's see, Pinterest, which changed their whole way of doing things recently, which is such a pain. So, I have Pinterest, YouTube, and, I have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And so I kind of have narrowed down where things seem to be shared more, and, the people who are buying, what platforms they're on for me. And that's really just a matter of trying it out. So like if you try Twitter and you hate it and, you're not spending any time on it anyway, don't waste your time on it. You know what I mean? Dedicate that time to the platform that you like or you're getting a better response on. That's what I would say. And that's different for everybody. That is really down to you. Some authors have like a lot of success on Pinterest, and some authors don't use it at all, for example. So, and then like the balance between marketing and actual time spent writing and editing, that's always tough. I mean, like you can chunk it. Like if you can batch stuff off and do like marketing, let's say you say Sundays at 2:00, I schedule a bunch of stuff, and then anything you put up extra is great. But, I find that to be the easiest because you're kind of in the mindset and you've got everything scheduled and you're kind of seeing one post against the other. And you can see like how that's going to look. You don't have to pay for that. Like if you're using Facebook and Instagram, Facebook pages and Instagram, you can just cross post if you want from that one platform and schedule it. Like you don't have to pay for anything if you don't want to. But that's kind of the easiest way. I haven't been doing that recently. I've been so frustrated with Facebook not sharing my posts that I've been just putting up random stuff. But the best way for me is definitely batching it and then spending the rest of my time on the actual writing and editing. That's my advice for all of your questions. How about you, Richard?
I think it's never too early to start the buzz about your book. And I think as long as you start it, continue doing it and set yourself a realistic timeline. So if you're saying you're going to publish on May 1st, make sure that you are publishing on May 1st. Do not say you're publishing on May 1st and then have life slap you in the face in March and all of a sudden, oh my God, I can't get it done because life does happen. So give yourself some time, give yourself a bit of leeway, and allow yourself to meet your deadlines. And that way you're not creating all this buzz for no reason. And I think with regards to a social media platform, pick one or two that you like and do them well. Don't you can't spread yourself over all of them. You can't you can do TikTok videos all day long if you want, but that leaves you no time to do anything else. So if TikTok is your thing because you're an outgoing person and you like doing those videos, then by all means do book talk. I think there's book talk now on TikTok. So there's so many different avenues to get out there, and there's so many different readers out there. So don't worry if you're missing the readers on Pinterest, because you're never going to satisfy all the readers that you're going to find on TikTok or Facebook or whatever your
Yeah.
choice is of social media platforms. So I would just say pick a platform and do it well, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. And then when you have picked that platform, it's easier to keep up with that platform and what's new on it and using all the new stuff. So
Yeah, we
that's
were
another
just
thing
talking
to
about
consider.
Facebook before I came on here, how they've changed their pages and stuff like that, and they're making it more and more difficult for the users. So it's very frustrating. But
They're killing me
that's
with it. They're killing me. It's so
that's life.
frustrating.
So yeah, either like it or lump it, I guess. So
Yeah, pretty much.
so David Kelly's just saying KU seems to work better for some genres, not others, and that's true.
Yes.
I would think that fantasy that I write, especially epic fantasy, if I write a 600-page book, that's probably I'm going to get a lot more money out of someone reading my one book than someone reading one of Christie's shorter Victorian era books. So certainly
Yeah.
there is that, and I truly believe that you need to have series and stuff or a bunch of books anyway
Mhm.
in the genre that you're writing for people to take notice in KU for the most part. Uh, just so these KU readers know that there's more to read if they enjoy the first book that they pick. So it's like watching Netflix. Like you start into a series, and all of a sudden you really love it, but there's only one season, so you get to 10 episodes. You binge watch it for 2 days. All of a sudden, now I got to find something else. So I truly believe that's a part of KU as well. And now we're going to get to Joe Compton. Sorry, Joe, I jumped off there. In regards to doing KU or going wide, I think it really matters what you're trying to do. If you are someone who does a lot of in-person events at cons and things like that, going wide is really the only choice because retailers don't use Amazon or stock because of return impact aspect. However, if you're just doing ebooks and things like that, KU might be very beneficial. It also depends on where you're at. If you're doing a series, going KU with the first couple or first, yeah, that exactly, Joe. That's exactly what we're saying. Yeah, I totally agree
Mhm.
with that. KU a lot of people make tons of money on KU. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, especially like you said, there are certain genres, and another one is romance. That's one of those, especially
Yeah,
if you can get like a really good series or collection or whatever going. K is like great for romance. They eat it up. So if you're a romance author, think about it.
yeah, well, yeah, and the reader pool in romance is amazing. So if you want to
Yeah,
write just to make money, then the romance genre is probably the one you want to be in.
yeah. They're hungry. Always those readers are
Oh,
hungry.
definitely. Yeah, they just eat that stuff up.
Yeah.
So David Kelly, I don't find social media does much for marketing. It's good for meeting people though. I don't think that it's worth investing a lot of time in them. Yeah, yeah, social media isn't for everybody, that's for sure. And I think you can pick up a good following. Some people have great followings on social media, and I
Mhm.
think a lot depends on how you engage them. And
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. I got a little monologue I'm gonna read at the end, but I address a bit of that social media stuff. That there's so many different ways you can engage social media, and there's so many ways that I won't engage in social media. Just
Mhm.
the shock factor. I won't do that, just because that's not who I am. But I'll talk a little bit about that later. But
So David, I would be interested to know, like, what do you do in terms of marketing? Do you think like newsletters, for example? Maybe I'm just antisocial these days. Do you find what do you use that works for you as opposed to social media marketing? I agree with you, Richard. I think the engagement aspect is exhausting, and I
Mhm,
do engage, but I go through long periods where I just don't have the time. I don't, and
mhm.
I want to share stuff, and like sometimes I have the time to share, but not to really do anything else. And then sometimes I just become discouraged by the fact that I don't have the time to engage a whole lot, and then I'll just not post, which doesn't help at all. Don't fall into that pit. Don't do what I did. Just keep posting at least to keep your page active, and then engage where you can, and when you do engagement, who does engagement, then high quality engagement, not just putting like a heart as a comment, like putting something that shows you read the
Oh,
post and
definitely
you
respond
have
for
something to
sure. Yeah.
say, you really have something to say.
Yeah, and even if it's just a couple words, it's just like leaving a review. Like it's a very simple thing. I love the book. That's it. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
leave like an 18 paragraph book review. Just respond, and that'll gain you more engagement, and it'll make you more prevalent on that person's feed as well. It'll help raise you a wee bit in their algorithm, so you might see them again. So
Yeah,
I think a lot of times, especially with Facebook now, is we've got like 1,000 friends on here, and you see posts from 3 of them all the
I
time.
know.
You don't see from others, and a lot of it has to do with how you engage with them. Hitting the like button isn't the same as hitting the love button. The love button gets a lot more oomph on Facebook, and so does I think the
Mm.
laugh button. but just hitting the like button is almost like not doing anything. And if you don't respond, that's like doing nothing as well. So just, think of those little tricks as you're going through. If you like an author, or you like one of your readers, when they chime in on something you do, don't just like it, love it. Just say thank you, just a simple thank you, and hopefully you'll show on the feed a lot more.
Yeah. And I remember when our very first interview was BJ, was it Fournier?
Yes.
I can't remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And he gave the advice of making sure that you try to, if you want to do this on Facebook, going into your friends list and going to the friends that you don't talk to often, making sure you go to their profile, and not just liking, like you said, you can put a heart on it or something, and commenting something. And he said that helps you be seen more, and it helps you see more. So, I think I tried doing that a while ago, and for as long as I had the stamina to do it, it was good.
Exactly. And just at that point, you got to decide who are your readers and who aren't. So, as much as I love David Kelly, if I comment on him, we give each other a book, so he's not going to be buying my book. So I'm looking for the readers that I'm going to engage with, the people that don't actually know. And, so if I go in and engage with a reader, that I might get a perspective buy off them. And again, I wouldn't take a lot of time in it, because that's one book for one person. So if you've got 5,000 people on your friends list, like, you spend your whole life trying to engage with people. So. But if someone comments on your stuff, like, don't just like them, love them, and or heart them, whatever, and maybe just say thank you or something. It's just something very simple. You don't have to spend your whole day on them, but just acknowledge them, and I think that'll help you show up in their feeds a little bit more, and maybe generate sales down the road.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Louise Spilsbury, and she has I know Louise, and she's just pulled a book off Amazon, and she's rebranding it, and she's going to come out again. And so she's really interested in what's going on with the publishing side of things. And she says, good point about the limitations of KU. For the first book in a series, I've been debating whether to go in KU or wide with my new book. Based on what you just said, I'll go wide. Yeah. And again, Louise, the advice that we give you tonight is not something that works for everybody. So I think you have to take everybody's advice with a grain of salt. So what works for Christie might not work for me. Mm-hmm. And what works for Joe might not work for Christie, or it might. You never know, and you just have to experiment. So, you can get a bit of our experience, and from what I've learned and gleaned from a lot of people, and it's not gospel, that if you have one book on KU, you're probably not going to sell much. If you've got if you have 3 books, then you're going to get a lot more page reads, because hopefully 50% of the people that read book 1 will just automatically jump into book 2 with no advertising. They don't need to. They'll be looking for book 2. And then 80% will look for book 3, and so on. You keep those readers up to a certain point. So, So.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
You go ahead, Christie. I'm just going through the...
Yeah, I was looking at David, what David Kelly said. I limit my social time. I share things that I'm interested in and discuss things around that, but not directly about my books. And I think that's a really good example, David, because I noticed that you share a lot of science and technology information, a lot of articles is what I'm trying to say. And I find them really interesting. I don't always understand them as well as you probably do, but I do find them really interesting. And it's kind of perfect because it is within your genre, in the way that, this stuff that you're posting is nonfiction, but if you like that stuff, then they'll probably like your books, So I think that's a really good tack to take. It makes a lot of sense.
Definitely. He's catering to his fans. So,
and he's saying he does,
sure. He doesn't, as far as sales go, you don't care about anyone else. You're catering to the people that are interested in what you write. So
exactly.
Yeah, that was definitely a good strategy for sure.
And he's saying that in terms of marketing, I had asked him what he does instead of social media. And he said, other than launches and events, he does Amazon ads and newsletters. So that's good to know. Thank you for answering.
And Joe Compton says, you go ahead.
Whoop.
No, go ahead, Christie.
CJ is saying there is a great person to talk to about that, Louise, Mark Leslie, author, who is with Draft to Digital. Have a consult with them. The platform they have is great, easy to use and navigate. Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, especially since our conversation last week, CJ. I know a bunch of people who have switched to Draft to Digital and they really, really like it. So it's something I'm considering. But like as soon as there's any aspect of money where it's like if you make a mistake, you have to pay to upload.
Right.
I always get intimidated, and I'm like,
Yep.
Because there's always something I want to change with, even a link, or well, you're not allowed to put links in there, but I might want to add, my next book, and then I'm like, oh, do I want to do that? I think it's kind of probably peanuts, to do
Well,
that.
true. And certain platforms have certain limits. So Ingram Spark, depending if you have codes or not, you're generally paying for revisions.
Right.
Drafted Digital, you pay for revisions every 90 days. If you're just releasing a book, maybe Drafted Digital isn't the way to go at first. If you think that you might be, seeing a whole bunch of typos in the next week or two after releasing, oh my God, I got to change that. You can either wait the 90 days and then leave it with those typos in for 90 days and then do the revision for free. Or what I generally do with my books is I will write the first edition, and once I go through the narration and everything else, I find the book is very clean after that point. It's amazing the little typos to get through. And at that point, I'll make it a second edition, and then I'll upload them to these paid, to these sites, so that I'm pretty confident I won't be revising them again, other than if I write the next book and the back matter changes a wee bit.
That's it, yeah.
But that's generally after 90 days. I'm not pumping out a book every 3 months, so at that point, it's free again at Drafted Digital.
We're going to get to 100,000 words a month someday.
The only thing going with Drafted Digital is you're not going direct into these platforms. So, Drafted Digital's got to make a bit of money off you as well, because they're providing you the service. So there are certain ones that you should probably just go direct to and let Drafted Digital look after all the minor ones that aren't really that significant, but there's certainly a sales avenue as well, like Tolino and all these different ones. So we did Google Play on our own, we did Kobo on our own, and then we used Drafted Digital to do a whole bunch of other ones, and they got us into Apple. And God help you if you have any kind of link in your book that has anything to do with Amazon, because Apple and Amazon hate each other. And they will reject everything. So luckily CJ's looking after that, not me.
Yeah, she really knows what she's doing too.
And CJ's saying here on the follow-up. Oh, sorry, did you have something up there, Christie? Did I kick you out?
No.
CJ's saying ebooks Drafted Digital, no charge for changes, but if there are changes within the print, then change the cost you, but free again after 90. Okay, that's what we said.
Yep, you're right.
And Louise, I recently opened an account with Drafted Digital and was thinking of using them to do the non-Amazon markets. It would be a lot of work to publish. It certainly would be. And so the only thing you should do, Louise, is that don't do Kobo through Drafted Digital. You're a Canadian author. Do Kobo direct. And Mark, if you actually have that consult with Mark Leslie, message me after this and I will give you his contact information. The first consult is free. He's so easy to talk to. He's great to talk to. He will talk to you longer than his consult time of 20 minutes or something like that. And he will tell you why you should do Kobo on its own, just because you're going to get a bit better payout and you'll be able to take a better advantage of some of the promotions that they have. So sometimes when you go through a different thing like Drafted Digital, you lose the aspect of getting certain in-house promotions. So there's always that to think of.
I've been using Smashwords since the beginning of my author career, and they're a real pain to format for, but I haven't had any complaints otherwise. And they have like catalog sales something like every half year, and I always put my books in that and make more sales. And of course you get your books into more hands if you put it for free, but usually I do like one book free, one book half price or something like that. So Smashwords is an option, but definitely compare them. I know a lot of people moved to Drafted Digital. So yeah, I'm sure it's better in some ways.
If it's trying to get you into markets that you probably wouldn't think of doing yourself, and then they'll get you into libraries and other stuff as well to get you. So you can go direct into all these ones, but I don't think any of us have the time to actually go direct into every individual one, and then you have to manage the dashboards and the payments and everything else. So I think for smaller markets, by all means, do Drafted Digital. If you're Canadian, even Americans do. Kobo is something you should probably do direct. The Amazon definitely do direct, and the smaller ones, it's up to you and how much time you actually want to spend. So.
Yeah. Wanda has a good comment. I have copies of all my books with me all the time and have sold lots by just talking to people in stores and about. It's such a good point. People don't think enough about that. It's a great point. Also, I put bookmarks in used books, a genre comparable to mine. That's so smart. In thrift stores like Value Village, I have got sales from that also. That is really, really smart, Wanda. Those are 2 great tips.
I never thought about doing that. Yeah.
Great tips. Yeah, I definitely keep copies in my trunk. And yeah, have been surprised sometimes, you know, somebody meets you and they're like, oh, you're an author. Let me tell you, what is your book about? And all of a sudden you've sold one and you didn't mean to. It's when you mean to sell them that you can't. And then when you don't mean to, suddenly you've sold a book and you don't know how you did it.
I love the fact that you do that in thrift stores. And I always tell everybody that I will know that I've made it when I find my book in a thrift store. I've never found my book in a thrift store yet. So I haven't quite made it yet, but I think that's when I'll actually feel that I've made it as an author, is when I go into Goodwill or Salvation Army or something up here in Canada and someone's got rid of my book. Hopefully it was an estate sale, not because they didn't like it. But
That's too funny. Anita Stewart is also saying, and you can also do audiobooks through Findaway Voices for free if you go through Draft to Digital. I didn't know that. I did not know that. I have to take a closer look. I've been saying that for years. I got to get on it.
Yeah, no, that's good to know, because I'm going wide right now with my Keeper of the Jewel audiobook. So we're trying to find the best platform for us, and we're looking at Findaway Voices. I never thought about going through Draft to Digital. So there, I've learned something tonight, and that's awesome. Thank you for that, Anita. Well,
that's really
certainly
cool.
Something we'll look into.
Yeah.
And Louise is saying, thanks for the advice. I published my first book on Amazon and Kobo, so doing Kobo myself isn't too much of a stretch. And most of these platforms aren't. And once you get used to them, their little quirks and stuff like that, they're almost, I wouldn't say they're totally user friendly, but once you've done 1 or 2, then you start getting used to what they're asking and the different things that you need to put in there, and it becomes a little bit easier. I'm just thinking that these smaller ones that Draft to Digital will look after for you is just something that you don't want to manage yourself. You certainly there's certainly benefits to doing every individual one yourself, but I don't have that much time myself. So just look at the big ones: Kobo, Amazon, Google. I guess I could have done Apple on my own, but I didn't want to get involved with Apple, so I just went to Draft to Digital. So yeah,
it can really be too much.
It is. It's certainly, you need to have someone like, I've got Caroline that luckily, so she helps me do so much stuff, so I can actually start. I can just hone in on the writing and do what I need to do, and then she can look after stuff in the back. And I'm glad she's doing that, because it just makes my head spin. It really does.
I know. It's really a pain. Let's see. Yeah. Joe is saying it is a good point. Yeah, Smashwords has become the Goodreads of the publishing world, antiquated at best. Yeah, Goodreads especially put themselves kind of out of the running to some degree. I mean, people have lots of success on there. People have success on all platforms. It just depends on what you do and where your readers are and all that kind of stuff. But I think they really did themselves out of a lot of stuff by when they started charging for I think it was giveaways, right? They started charging for giveaways, Goodreads, and it's not cheap. It's not like, a $5 charge or something. It's like $100 something or something. Wow. It's just crazy. I can't remember exactly how much, but there were major complaints at the time because people use that a lot. And I remember with my first book, I did that, and I got lots of people to add me to their to read list just to put me on their map. That was we'll give away a few books, get on their map, and then maybe they'll remember my name the next time they see it. But boy, when they did that, was there an uproar. And actually, I was at a Goodreads seminar. Joe, you might find this interesting. I don't know if you've ever gone to these. I was at a Goodreads webinar, seminar, whatever, and they actually said you really don't need to do any kind of giveaway. Like, don't worry about that. It costs, like, just don't bother. And I was so surprised, honestly, that they said that. It's their own company. But, but they ran you through it, but they were like, nah.
Yeah. So I got a question here for you, and everyone, all the authors in here, please chime in on this too. This is very a relevant question to all of us. Now that we're looking back, what do you wish you did differently when starting out? What is the one thing that if you could do differently when you were first starting out, what would it be?
You go first. You think about it.
I don't know. I guess I would have tried to create a bit more buzz at first, and tried to learn a bit more about going wide and all these different things. You know, when I first started, I published a novella, The Royal Tournament, and actually Louise Spilsbury helped me uh, beta read that, so she was awesome in that, and she was instrumental in the second chapter, so it was really great. But I used the Royal Tournament to cut my teeth on Amazon because I had no idea what I was doing, and David Kelly jumped in and
Mhm.
he helped me figure out what a TIN number was. I was so stuck; I had no idea how to look after the financial part of that. Because it was the first time I've ever done anything. And being a Canadian author, things are a little bit different than being in the US because everything's done through the US. So Amazon is US. So, you know,
Mhm.
we have to conform to that, and that's fine. But it just made it a little bit more difficult being from north of the border. And David walked me through that because he'd been through it himself. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, just learning the different platforms a bit more. But it's so tough. There's so many things when you first start out. It's if you think about everything you need to do as an author when you first, an independent author, when you first start out, it's so overwhelming. You almost just want to crawl under your bed and start quivering because there's just too much to do. It's information overload, and I'm horrible for researching stuff. So I guess I would have spent more time looking into doing all these different things, but it is what it is, and I am where I am now, and I would just move on from here.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I guess what the biggest mistake I made with my first two books was to say a date that I was going to publish them by before I really like I was convinced that I could say a
Hmm.
publishing date, I would give myself a lot of time and it would work out fine. And I think it did for my first book, which was Lucky, and I really had to work constantly to get that done. So I wish I hadn't done that. You should really wait until you know what you're doing, pretty much. You have to buy the ISBN, you know, you need to get your book edited, all the formatting, the cover. You know, it's a lot more than what you may think when you first start. So really getting that under control and knowing what you're doing before you set any kind of publication date is best. And with my second book, I was sure it was going to be I was planning on doing a novelette, and it turned into a novella, a novel. So, you know, it took a lot longer to write and then to get edited and the whole process. And so I had, of course, I had set like release dates, and I was sure I was going to do my first book here and then three novellas on these dates and then the final novel. And it, of course, was nothing like that. So, you know, I definitely advise, unless you really know what you're doing, to wait until you've got yourself really together and you know the whole process and you're certain of when you can publish. Like even experienced authors sometimes throw a date out there and then have to reschedule, and it's a big mistake. You
Hmm.
can just update people along the way and say where you're at, and then once you're done with the editing and you definitely know that your book is done, and if you have everything else under control, you know, then sure, put out a publication date. But yeah, that was my biggest mistake then, and I get close to doing it again because I get so excited to put
Hmm.
out things,
Hmm.
you know,
For
and that
sure.
excitement can like overtake me sometimes. So I have to hold myself back and not give out a publication date too far in advance.
Hmm. Oh, for sure. You know what? I just reached that about 10 minutes ago, and I'm guilty of it too because I think we all are. Like I was going to, I want to keep trying to rapid release my books, and I never
Mhm.
can get there. Things just, you know, life happens. And Dragon Sect, I wanted out in October, and I've told a few people at the market where I'm selling my books that, oh, it'll be out in October, and then I realized no, it's not going to be out till November, and now
Mhm.
it's late
Yeah.
November. So it's so hard because, you know, I figure I've got so much time to get this out, and there's no reason that it won't get out, and then life happens, life gets in the
Yeah.
way, and you know, the writing process isn't always 8 to 4 where you're going to bang out, you know, 7,000 words a day or 5,000 or 3,000, whatever it is, whatever you set your schedule up. It doesn't always happen that way. So give yourself a lot of realistic time. So,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'm just conscious of the time, and I see that Jackie Cohen's got a question that she wanted to ask.
Yeah.
I'll just pull it up here. Thank you for your advice on marketing. Hope you don't mind a few more questions. What's your thoughts on publishing in Barnes and Nobles versus Amazon? Is one better than the other, both, or do you prefer another? How how and where do you order print copies for your book? I'll let you start with that, Christy.
Sure. Yeah. I think all of the above. I mean, I would say, in my experience, Amazon you will sell more than on Barnes and Noble, but that's just my experience. I'm also not somebody who's in physically in Barnes and Noble, so obviously, if you have a book physically there, it might be different. But you know, my advice would be to do both for sure, unless you're going to be in KU. But if you go wide, definitely do Barnes and Noble and Amazon. And you know, if you wanted to choose for whatever reason, I would choose Amazon personally from my own experience. And then, where you order print copies, you will find that in the back area of Amazon, and they give it to you like at cost. And then when you sell it in person, you sell it for retail price. So that's your profit. And it's easy to order. It is easy, especially now that we don't have Create Space. Who remembers that?
David Kelly, don't bring that up. David Kelly's going to get mad at you because he likes Create Space.
What are your thoughts, Richard? Do you agree?
Well, Amazon is 70% of the market. So, whether you love Amazon or you hate them, I know a lot of people hate Amazon. It's a matter of whether you want to cut off your nose and spite your face. If you actually want to make money, Amazon's the market that you're going to do it in. So I know you can make money in other markets as well, and you can do well in other markets. But if Amazon is 70% of the pie, that's a pretty big piece. And as far as Barnes and Nobles, I'm in Canada. I don't know much about Barnes and Nobles. It's probably like Indigo Chapters up here. It's being self-published unless people actually order my print books through Ingram Spark or Draft to Digital now. Draft to Digital is starting to offer print books. My books will not appear in these brick and mortar stores unless you order them. They're probably not going to carry them. I'm not Stephen King, so I'm not too worried about that as far as being in bookstores themselves. I love to have my books in a bookstore. I love to walk in a bookstore and there's Richard H. Stephen. There's no doubt about that. But realistically, it's not in my immediate future anyway. Maybe it's a long-term goal, but I'm not too concerned about it. So is one better than the other? I can't comment on Barnes and Nobles. And how and where do you order your print copies? I will order my first batch through Amazon only because they're so amazingly quick. Like I can order it today and have it delivered to my door tomorrow. It's incredible. In Canada, we don't get author copies yet, so that's a bit of a conundrum. So what I do is I set my print copy so I don't make any money on it. Then I order them, and then by doing that, I can take advantage of Prime because I'm now a customer. I'm not an author. So I can take advantage of the Prime, and so I get it for cost, and I don't get the royalties through Amazon. I just don't. I just buy it cheaper, and then right away, as soon as I get the things ordered, I will put my print books up to the price that I'm going to sell them on Amazon, and then I'll use a local printer because a local printer, far and away, is always cheaper than you'll ever get them off Amazon, and you don't have to pay for a lot of times you don't have to pay for shipping if it's not too far away. So you got to find a good local printer that you like. That's my answer to that, I guess.
I've never done that. That sounds scary to me. It intimidates me, the idea of finding an actual printer.
And it depends on what you want. Like if you're only ordering 5 or 10 books, then that's probably not the best idea. But I just ordered 500 books, so that makes a big difference. If I'm saving $4 or $5 a book, my Keeper of the Jewel is 624 pages from cover to cover, and Amazon was charging me $19.54 Canadian to buy it, and that's me not making any money off Amazon. Jeez. That's my cost or their cost, and then so I was selling it for 25, which make $5 a book. Still, I'm not making big money unless I don't sell 1 million books. So your profit margin's got to be there when you're an independent author. You got to Terry Brooks, Stephen King, they'll make $1 on a hardcover, but they don't care. They sell 20 million books. So they just make 20 million bucks. We don't do that. So, our profit margin is going to be different. So when I ordered it through my printer, my cost went way down. So I even lowered my cost of my Keeper of the Jewel to $20 because I'm still making more money, but offered a lower price. So it all depends on what you're looking at. If you're going to do cons and book shows and stuff like that, where you're going to order bigger number of volumes, then definitely find a local printer that'll do it better for you.
Yeah. And I think Wanda is asking any tips for cover design. Mr. Richard, would you like to start?
Oh, there's so many cover designers out there. So I'm not I know what I'm supposed to do. You're supposed to research your genre and go on Amazon and look at what genre you're in and see what kind of covers they have out there. I do that. Sometimes I cringe at the covers that they have out there, thinking, oh God, I don't want a cover like that. And yet those are the covers that they're selling. So it all depends on what you're looking for, really. If you want the cover to sell your book, and being like me, being a no-name author, the cover is the first thing the person is going to see, and that's going to draw them to me because they don't know who I am. It's not like if they see Stephen King, it can be a black cover, and he's proven that he can sell it. Doesn't matter because that's his name, but I'm not. So I need a cover that generally meets the genre. So go on Amazon, look at your genre, look at all the different covers, and then there's so many different cover groups on Facebook. Like I'm not promoting Facebook at all, but there's so many different cover groups. You can cover designers that do pre-mades, they do custom covers, and you can get a cover probably for a good cover for $250 to $500 to $1,000. It all depends on what you want on there, how many characters, how is it actually painted, or are they using stock photos or whatever. So there's so many different ways to answer that question.
And does make a big difference.
Yeah, David Kelly says he does his own covers. He does them very well. I would not recommend that for most people. And you've done your cover too, Christie, and you did that very well. So it can be done. But unless you really know what you're doing, and it depends on what you want to do with your book. If you're just printing your book so you can give it to your friends and neighbors, then who cares? Do whatever you want me to cover. But if you actually want to make a bit of money off it, then you should probably get it professionally done, unless you're really good at doing what you do.
I always hear the advice. Oh, go ahead, finish up.
No, I was just reading Joe Compton. That's what I tell everybody when people come to my booth and ask me, I'm writing a book. And the two things I always say to them, I said, I don't care what else you do. Well, obviously write a good story, as best a story as you can, and and don't try to be Stephen King, because you're not. We need Christie Stratos, or we don't have a Christie Stratos, right? So be yourself, but invest in two good things: a good cover and a good editor, because the cover is going to get you looked at when nothing else is on that book that's going to say, hey, I know Joe Compton. That's an amazing cover. Oh, this is Joe Compton. Then you read. And a good editor, because it's what's between the covers that actually matters at the end of the day. If you don't have a good editor and their first impression of Joe Compton is that this guy doesn't know grammar, and as an author you realize that that's not the case. I know English very well, but it's just typos and everything else get through at the end product. So you're writing 100,000 words, you're going to have mistakes in there. But if there's so many mistakes in there, they're going to have a bad feeling about Joe Compton, and they won't buy his book again, even if he's writing a good story. So yeah, definitely invest in a good editor, a good cover, and try and write the best stories you can.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the cover, I just want to echo a little bit what Richard said. You want your cover to sort of scream the genre it is, which can get tricky sometimes when you're multi-genre. Like for me, there you go. It's fantasy right off the bat. So, I mean, for me, mine are, suspense and historical. So I needed to really scream suspense first and foremost. That's the most important aspect. If you don't like suspense, you're not going to like my books. And then secondarily, it needs to look like it's in a different time period so that people don't pick it up expecting a modern story or anything like that. Some people buy based only on the cover. So you really want to get that right. And, as you said, I've done 3 of my own covers. One was horror, and they're only the short stories. The novels, I do hire professionals. But for the short stories, I didn't feel it would be worth it. So I did those myself. And, I got good feedback. At some point I may change some of them. The third cover I ever made was The Artist, and that one has done the best so far with continual sales. So, I'm on to something. But, one of the things also that I often hear is, do the research on your genre, and you want it to fit in, but then have something about it that's slightly different to set yours apart.
At the same time,
for my stuff, I really just did my own thing, which is not really the most advisable thing. Really, you should look at your genre and put something in that screams the genre and sort of fits. But, as I just said, if you can do something that makes yours unique, great, but not to the degree that somebody questions, what am I reading? Or like, what is this? Or it doesn't suit the book once you open the book and you read it, and people are like looking at the cover again. They're like, that doesn't match, you don't want to do that. Yeah, so definitely match it.
Oh, I love that, Dave Boy. I'm sorry, I just got the wrong there. A good cover sells your book, a good editor sells your next book, and that is so true. And true, by that,
that's a good point.
Mention your story sells your next book. So, get it edited well, and as you tell a good story that the readers like, then they're going to buy it. Doesn't matter what your cover is beyond that point. But the good cover brings them in, and the editor will sell your next book. That's so true.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd see that we're well past our regular time. So uh, do you have anything you wish to add, Christy, before we get ready to sign off here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm always open if you're somebody who is, starting out writing a book or in the middle of publishing and you would like, any kind of advice. I'm always very open. Most people in the indie community are. Don't ever be afraid to reach out. I remember reaching out to a lot of people when I published my first book. And I remember, I was very confused about something with ISBNs, and I emailed Joe, who is currently here, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? What does this mean? Like I don't
Hmm.
want to sound stupid and post this on social media. And he helped me. People do that all the time, and there's just you post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, wherever you want to post it. Message someone privately. Just never be afraid to reach out. It's a very open community, and most people support each other. So, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. And the author community is so sorry, I'm just trying to get these off and I keep clicking on other ones. So the author community is so giving. You ask a
Yeah.
question and like I say, you're going to get so many answers that you might even be more confused than before you started. But at least you now have some avenues you can go down. So I wrote
Hmm.
this out just before we started here today, and this is my belief, and that it's just from me, and everyone's different, and the author journey is totally unique. So, but at the end of the day, no one author path will follow another, especially for those of us who are independently published. What works for me may not work for you, and the best we can do until we find our way is to listen to advice with an open mind and a grain of salt as well. So experiment with what resonates with you. Some things you try will work, most will actually not work, and that's the joy of our business as independent authors. Is you see all these people making all these big bucks, and you wonder why it's not working for me. And there's really no explanation. You just have to keep trying, and if you as soon as you stop trying, you fail. As long as you keep trying, you will be successful. So there's no explanation. Genre plays into it as well. If you write romance or reverse harem or something like that, you know you got a lot more readers out there, so you got a better chance of selling your books. But again, at the end of the day, it depends on what's between the covers. So as well as covers, blurbs, back matter, advertising strategies, there's so much more. All of these things can and will influence how your books are received. Another big factor, like it or not, is your social media presence that we talked about earlier. I've seen crude authors put up controversial posts to stir the pot and generate engagement and just make my jaw drop and go, oh my God, I can't believe he actually said that. And they get a lot of response, and but what they're doing is they're attracting the readers that they want. So they don't care about me, who might be offended by it. They're trying to stir the pot, and it works for them. It, it works brilliantly for some of them, at least, and there are those that love it, and there are many others who don't. And other authors travel a more neutral path, like myself, which again may bring in readers and also turn away other readers. So it's my belief that as long as you stay true to yourself, you will attract the readers you wish to have reading your books. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. Not everybody is going to like your stuff. Not everybody likes Stephen King stuff. Not everybody likes J.K. Rowling stuff. How many books have they sold? They're not for everybody. So don't sweat that. Perhaps the best advice I can give is this: one, write a good story. That's the key. If you don't write a good story, they're not going to read it again. And two, publish your book. You'll only ever be as good as the book that you're writing right now. So, don't think that you're going to write the Pulitzer Prize novel right now, because you're probably not going to. But hopefully, your next book will be a little bit better as you go on. So get it done and move on. Nothing's going to sell your last book like your next one. And finally, above all else, believe in yourself, and the world will follow you. You can't expect anyone else to believe in you unless you believe in yourself. So don't cut yourself short. So we're authors first and foremost because we love writing stories. Enjoy the journey. Don't despair. The setbacks you encounter along the way will go a long way to help you appreciate the highs of this author journey. And there's many highs and lows. It's like a roller coaster. So, uh, you know, as much as we don't relish the lows, let them help you appreciate when you actually reach the highs and the joys and the great reviews and stuff like that you get along the way. So,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, just follow your dreams.
Absolutely. That was perfect. I mean, you really summed it up perfectly there. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, and thank you everyone for joining, and thank you everyone for chiming in with a lot of your advice. We certainly, I know myself anyway. I can't speak for Christy. I certainly am not an expert uh, anything. Like even writing, I'm not an expert in that at all. So again, take my advice with the grain of salt that I mentioned just a minute ago. So I just want to mention that next week's guest is a women's fiction author, science fiction, and fantasy author David A. Wimsett. David's a member of the Writers Union of Canada and the Canadian Media Guild. His novels include Beyond the Shallow Bank, where a woman in crisis encounters rumors of the Selkies from Celtic mythology. So that should be interesting.
Mhm.
And his fantasy series, I'm probably going to say this wrong, and you're going to have to research this, Chrissy, because you'll have to say it. This Karen Deer saga set in a multicultural world of gender equality. So it'd be interesting talking to Dave Wimsett, and then we'll get Lurking for Legends back on to what we normally do. So generally when you guys see these special programs, it's because unfortunately for some reason one of our guests has had to cancel due to life circumstances. So we just try to fill in with something else. And if anyone has an idea for a show going forward when we have a cancellation, please let us know. We'd love to explore that as well. So
This is actually the reason we did this Q&A was actually a suggestion by Wanda. So, we do listen to what you guys say.
Yes, thank you, Wanda. That was great. So, and Wanda says, just before I leave, where did you go? I got the wrong mouse. I got so many mice on my desk. It's good thing there's no cat in here. The writing is the easy part, and then the work begins. That is so true. That is
so true.
Oh that's why I have Caroline. I get to do the fun part. Anyway, until next week, thank you, Christie, and thank you, everybody, for being part of the podcast. And stay safe and take care.